Welcome back to Conversation is King, where we talk love, faith, and relationships.
hmm hmm And we left off in a very, uh, I think, intimate and volatile space last time. We were talking about unaddressed traumas. Following, what was that, 2014? I believe it was 2014 when I had that tryout for the E. And I remember coming home that night and like you were crying. And I'm like, yeah, we're happy or whatever. But you were not happy. And I
It's
could
not.
not, for the life of me, understand, where this was coming from. And it took probably about 10 years for us to get to the point where we were able to address the unaddressable. I feel like.
And honestly, at the time in 2014, I didn't really know what was wrong. I just knew something was wrong. So I didn't know how to address
That's
it then.
deep.
I didn't know how to address it then. That was a very interesting um, turning point, I would say, in our relationship. We were about a year in at that point.
So, so then for the people watching that may be going through this exact same season in their relationship, how do you address the what feels like the unaddressable? Because like in that season, okay, yeah, you knew something felt wrong right here in what you call the shanana, right?
Shanana.
But you weren't able to readily pinpoint, I'm not feeling right about this situation because, but in those moments, you need to address, I'm not feeling right about this situation because. So, how do you acquire that skill? How do you get to the point where you're able to, I guess, reach that level of maturity or self awareness to be like, okay, this is what we need to address in order to be in a healthy place?
Well, first, let's talk about what was going on in my head at that time. So, we were extras at WWE. At this time, I was there as well. So, I was asked to be an extra as well. So, we were both backstage, and they had a series of tryout matches. I can't remember the gentleman's name that you went against, but the two of you had a match in the WWE ring. I could see his face, but I can't remember his name. Very nice man.
Lars.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
It was his ring name. I don't
No.
know. His real name was like Steve. It was something very normal.
Greg. Yeah.
But his ring name was like Lars something. Yeah, for sure.
And I remember the two of you were pulled to the side after the match. It was a great match, by the way, by one of the executives, one of the top executives. And I remember he just started spouting off all this information. We're bringing you both down to Florida. That was phenomenal. We're going to have you do a tryout, but it's just a formality. We want to sign you guys. You're going to be coming down to the performance center, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And I do want to say that, yes, when we got home, I was crying and I was sad, but I was very happy for you, but I was sad, I guess, for me or for us. And what was going through my head was from the beginning of our relationship, I always felt like the mistress. I always felt like second place, right? But it was in bites, of course. On the weekends, you do your professional wrestling during the week, just regular life. You're back to your regular scheduled program. So I was able to have that divide. I was able to have that balance. And I knew once we were to move down to Florida, that would be the all the time. That would be the all the time. And I think I had found a place of being okay with being the mistress on the weekends and having all of you during the week. I had found a place of peace in that, especially seeing how much you love professional wrestling, what it did for you. I felt that was my way of being supportive. Also, there's a culture within professional wrestling that makes it seem like that's normal, that's okay, that's how it's supposed to be. Um, so I felt kind of out of place feeling differently about that. So, of course, wanting to be the supportive girlfriend. I don't think we were engaged yet at this point. I do not believe we were engaged
I
yet.
think we were.
Really?
I believe we were.
Mm.
Which
We
is
got,
why
we
it
got to
was
talk about
frustrating
that
to me.
too.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about that too. The engagements. So
Sorry.
when you came home, I remember you were like, yeah, we're going to move down to Florida. And you started telling me what our life was going to be like. And arguably, it sounded great, but to me, it sounded like a nightmare. And it sounded like a nightmare because I was instantly triggered. And I didn't know I was being triggered. It's interesting how when you go into survival mode, how you start to repress things and how you really start to just push things down in order to keep going. So there was a lot of things that I was not dealing with that I didn't even realize I wasn't dealing with. Um, so that's why I couldn't articulate it. So during the course of this conversation, I took it upon myself to break up with him. I did. I set him free. I was like, okay, you're going down to Florida. Good for you. I don't want to, and I'm not uprooting, my children for that. So it's best if I just let you kind of go and do that. I'm proud of you. This was great, but nah. And he got so upset. He got so upset with me. This is what we've been working towards. What is wrong with you? You know, and if I'm honest, looking back, if I'm honest, there was something I wanted him to say that he never said. To this day, I still don't think he knows what that is. And when I didn't hear it, that kind of confirmed for me that this wasn't the right move for us to make. So I took it upon myself to break up with him. And the breakup didn't last long, in the sense of
like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we kept
talking. What was the thing? You can't breeze past the thing. I'm sure everybody wants to know what the thing is now.
So at this point, I didn't have any family in Florida. I didn't know anybody in Florida. I had no ties. I had the 2 young children. I had no skills. I had nothing really going for myself. So basically, I was just going to be down there, I guess, being a mom, winging it like I had been winging it in Atlanta. But it was different winging it in Atlanta because that was like a safe zone. I had family here. I had friends. I had a support system. It was familiar. So to have to try to do that in some place that was unfamiliar was just like a no-go for me. I wanted him to let me know that he was going to choose me. I wanted him to tell me, even though I would never let him do this, I wanted him to let me know that if it came down to it, he would choose me over the WWE. No time in the conversation did he say, well, if you're not going, then I don't want to go either. Or I'll wait to go until you're ready to go. Or what would you need to feel comfortable to go? Or nothing like that. It was more like, come on, come on, come on. And it didn't feel safe. It didn't feel secure. It didn't feel right. And that, I believe, was a big turning point in our relationship.
No, yeah, it was. It was a turning point in our relationship, one, because it's hard to understand what somebody needs when the conversation has never been had.
Yeah.
And when, put it to you like this, I feel like everybody's kind of living in their own world. I have my perspective from my viewpoint. You have your perspective. So when I'm looking at things from my perspective, if all we're talking about is plan A, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. This is what we're working towards. This is what, at least in my opinion or my mind, from my perspective, this is what we're doing. And then it happens, and then we're like, well, no, this is not what we're doing. So now I'm confused, and not understanding the root cause of these emotions. And again, at the time, I wasn't at this level of emotional maturity, but now it's like, okay, I see you're upset. I see you're triggered by something. What's the root of that? Because the actions that you're exhibiting right now are just surface level. What is the root of what's causing this? So at the time, I wasn't. I'm just like, this is what we're talking about doing. What is the thing? So in my mind, it never crossed my mind that you needed me to say, I'm going to choose you. This was you. This is the movie we were making for our family, in my mind, from my perspective. So that being the reaction triggered me. Going back to, situations with my family, with my mother, and feeling abandoned and left behind, and my abandonment issues. Honestly, low-key mommy issues that I had. I'd always been afraid of, the woman that I invested in, or women, period, leaving me. So in this moment, I'm like, I've done everything right, in my opinion, right? From my perspective, I've done everything right. I thought I said all the right things, and out of nowhere, it's just like, no, I'm not going. So it started to build. It started to cut, and because things weren't addressed, that cut became a rut, and it was just a deeper, infected, festering wound that was never addressed. And from that point, I feel like that's where things started to become, where we started to grow this way, you know, um, because of the unaddressed hurt that was underlying between the both of us that never really got to the root.
I would say also, a lot of my feelings in that moment wasn't necessarily because of anything that you did. Now, yes, you were extremely passionate about professional wrestling. You eat, sleep, breathe it. Um, and I didn't fault you for that. I now realize that it came from what I saw in my mother experience. I've never seen my mother be chosen. And of course, at that time, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize what I was experiencing. It's like now I realize that. And so I've seen my mother go through a lot with men and how they've treated her and things like that. And one thing I've always noted about my mother, she always bounced back and she always landed on her feet. And I always attributed that to her kind of remaining in her element. So as long as she was in her element, she could get herself together. She could get back on her feet. She could, get back going. So in turn, me moving out of my element made me feel like, well, if that same thing happened to me, would I be able to bounce back like that? If nothing else, my mother taught me how to survive. And when you made that ask of me, it made me feel like I was going into territory that would make it more difficult for me to survive. And it was fight or flight. I was getting the hell out of Dodge. I was running. I was running. I was running. And I actually thought I was doing the right thing by setting you free. I looked at myself as baggage. I looked at my children as baggage because at that point you were in their lives, and y'all were very close, but you weren't their dad yet. You weren't that, like, we had started to go through things and experience things and started to kind of meld, but nothing was solidified yet. So for me, it was, I can't do that to them too. I can't do that to them. Um, so it just felt like the right thing to do to cut ties, let you go live your dream. I remain here and continue to survive, and then we enjoy the memories of what we had.
So it seems like you have two people in a space where they're not emotionally mature, and they're not able to readily identify what it is that's triggering them, and you're kind of at a stalemate, and decisions are being made based off your lack of ability to communicate.
Right.
That's the tough part.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, because I'm not saying that, I was in a good place to communicate either, because I didn't even know how to react to that situation. I didn't know how to ask, okay, well, what's causing this? And even draw out of you what you were possibly feeling to get that conversation about how your mother, taught you how to survive. I didn't know how to do that. I'm just thinking I had like a one-track mind.
You were doing a lot better than I was. I will say that.
I don't know.
You were giving a lot
I don't
more
know.
effort towards the bigger picture than I was. I was more on a day-to-day survival, and you were more on a bigger picture survival. You were
Yeah.
trying, and I saw your effort.
I feel like at this point I got to take it back and explain to you guys why wrestling meant what it meant. Right? It wasn't that it was just this grand thing. I think I had a relationship with what it did for me. Almost like being in a bad relationship with a person. I was in a toxic relationship,
like a trauma bond
with an idea. Yeah, it was a trauma bond. So I didn't grow up with my dad, right? I knew who my dad was. My dad and my mother had a tumultuous relationship. That's a whole different podcast series. Not getting into that. But my mother uprooted me when I was about 5 years old, and we just kind of took off running. So I moved around from city to city, state to state because of her mental illness. She thought that when we were running, people were behind us, which wasn't the case. So when it comes to a 5, 6, 7, because the first 3 years was very tumultuous, 7-year-old kid with nothing being a constant, nothing being normal, you kind of search for things to anchor yourself to subconsciously. I didn't go to the same school. I didn't have the same friends. I didn't open my eyes every day and necessarily see the same surroundings. We lived in homeless shelters, and there are times we were sleeping on park benches or bus station benches, like pursuit of happiness type stuff. So I had no consistency. So when I was about 6, we were living in Portland, Oregon. 6 or 7, we were living in Portland, Oregon, and my mom worked at a grocery store. And while she was at this grocery store working, I was at this friend's house. Friend of hers who babysat. I still can't explain to you the inner workings of that relationship, how she met this lady, where she knew this lady from. All I knew was when she was at work, I was at her house. She had sons about my age, which is probably why my mother chose this route, right? Well, one night they put wrestling on the TV, and the first thing I ever saw was this dude in this brightly colored silk shirt, calling somebody, a Rudy Poo, and I'm just like, who is this guy? And it's The Rock, and I'm just instantly hooked. So from that point forward, I'm talking the VHS tapes, the toys, the magazines, the books. No matter where we were in life, or what city we were living in, or what homeless shelter we were in, or what mind space that my mom was in, I had pro wrestling, right? I wanted to know everything about it. I wanted to know the inner workings. I wanted to know the outer workings. I wanted to know how this worked, that worked. I wanted to know how you got into pro wrestling. I was like, and it got to the point when I got to a certain age, I'm like, well, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. And that's what's going to get me out of this situation. That's what's going to bring me my consistency, is I'm going to do that. I love the larger than life. I love how they made their own rules. Stone Cold Steve Austin would just kick in the door and do what he wanted to do. And like, I wanted to do that. I wanted to have that type of control over my life, to be able to do whatever I wanted to do, And I had bullies at school who didn't have bullies, right? And I wanted to be, The Rock or Stone Cold or Triple H whenever I had those situations. I remember one time I was getting picked on by this kid named Victor in the 2nd grade, and one day I just had enough. And we were coming back from the school library, and I took these books and I just whacked him across the side of the head like a steel chair. Like, I was so ingrained in wrestling that it became part of my personality. So now fast forward, I'm graduating high school. I'm like, I'm going to wrestling school. College who? College what? Like, it was such a trauma bond because of what I was going through, and it just became who I was.
It's interesting you talk about the consistency, because for how many years, every Monday, Raw is coming on. I don't care what's going on, rain, sleet, snow. You can depend on every Monday, Raw is coming on. SmackDown would be coming on Friday, whatever day it was going on during that season. So I understand what you mean about the consistency. It was very consistent.
Every month there's a pay-per-view.
Right.
You just know.
You could depend on it.
You can depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm telling you, I was so just immersed in that. And honestly, I feel like it could have been anything. It could have been the NFL. It could have been baseball. It could have been...
Well, no, because they have off seasons. There's no off season in
professional. Right.
So
but I mean, like, I guess I was just so enamored by that, which is how it became so attached to me. So I became so dependent upon, this is what I need to do in order to make it. So when I actually got into it, there was no like option. There was no plan B. It took for me to, like, I went to college for like a year, right? But even during that year, I was like, yeah, I need to get into this. This is what I need to get into. This is what, the plan is, blah, blah, blah. So everything I did from that point forward wasn't just, because I want to be a pro wrestler and I want to, win the title and, have all the glamorous moments. It was, in order for me to take care of my family, I need to be a pro wrestler, a successful one. In order for me to get my mom off the streets and get her the mental help that she needs, the mental health help that she needs, I need to be a successful professional wrestler. In order for me to make sure there's food on the table, in order for me to, live out my other dreams and follow my other passions, I have to be successful in this. So every day when I'm on the road, when I'm making my own gear with a sewing machine, YouTubing how to sew, when I'm, in the gym training, it was because I had to make it. So it was like, almost like, So I had like this convoluted way of looking at it. Yeah, that probably was my first love, and you likely were the mistress to that. But in order for me to be what I need to be to you, I need to be successful in this. That's how I looked at it. So when those things started happening, I was so locked in and so like just bonded with this that yeah, nothing else was going to like tear me away from it, because that's all I had. That's all I had invested into that point. So in that moment, I wasn't sure when we were having that conversation why you were like detaching from what I thought was understood between the both of us. Yeah. Because maybe I don't even know if we'd have the conversation at that point what it meant to me. I don't know.
We hadn't.
We just met and we were two wrestlers doing the wrestling thing. And to you, from your perspective, because I believe perspective is everything. From your perspective, it meant this. But from my perspective, it meant this. And if you don't know that, if you don't understand that, then how can you respect that, or move on the same wavelength that I'm on? So that's what. While I still had that unhealthy attachment to wrestling, I think that's where we started to drift apart. Now,
I want to put something in too. So after that conversation, the next part was, I'm going to contact you guys and we're going to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
It never happened. Right. And I think that is part of the issue as well, because it kind of left something unaddressed. So we had that conversation that night. We didn't break up, but it was kind of like a wait and see type thing. So when it never progressed in that instance, it kind of just let something linger. So I'm still thinking what I'm thinking. He's still thinking what he's thinking. We never had an opportunity to really address it because there was nothing really to address.
Mm.
So it was just this kind of lingering issue. And then, of course, other issues, life in the midst of that. And it was just compounding. It was kind of like the beginning of.
It's easier. It's always, hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Of course.
So it's easier to sit there and say, well, why don't you just say what you were feeling? Why don't you just say what you were going through? What do you do if you're talking to 20-year-old Matt, 21-year-old Matt, and I'm in that situation, and I know that I need to articulate how I'm feeling, but I guess I can't find the words. How do I do that?
Oh, you asking me?
I'm asking you. Mm-hmm. From a female standpoint, what does that look like for you, to hear that from the person that you're seeking safety from?
I honestly believe we were too broken and too immature to have that conversation at that point. Our feelings and our emotions were kind of leading the way. Mm-hmm. And our maturity, our brains needed to catch up. The capacity just was not there. The capacity was not there. We were not able to have that conversation. I believe even if we had gotten a therapist at that point that was kind of mediating the conversation, I still don't know if we would have been able to have that conversation, find the words for it. Also, I don't believe we had the self-awareness at that time. And before you can be honest with someone else, you have to be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we were even being honest with ourselves at that point. We were heavily in the survival mode. And talking about a trauma bond, I think to an extent, there was a trauma bond with us too. We came into the situation heavily in survival mode individually. And then we came together. We brought the skills that we've acquired individually and started surviving together. We still were not at a point of thriving. And I think we were just trying to figure it out. I believe we had good intentions. I believe we truly, truly had good intentions, and we were doing the best we could with what we had. But we had no blueprint. We had no map. We had nothing. We just had love. And we were trying to figure it out the best we could with nothing. It's amazing that we've made it to this point. Like looking back, mm-hmm. That was God. It was God's favor. But I will say the things that we went through have deeply shaped us as individuals. And looking back now, I wouldn't have traded those experiences because we are who we are now because of what we've gone through. And
Mhm.
we're so close and so tight and unbreakable now because of all that we've survived together.
So how do you get somebody to stick it out? It becomes tough for me when I see friends or young people, and I say young people like I'm old. I'm not old.
You have an old soul.
Yeah.
You're an old man inside.
I see people in these scenarios and situations in their relationship where they can't figure it out. Like it seems like they've hit like a brick wall. And to me, from my perspective, I'm like, bro, that's nothing. Like if you would know some of the things that we've overcome, like this would be small to you. However, they take these small, minute things and make them big because they don't have any self-awareness.
Yeah.
So how do you stick it out? Because I don't know if we chose to stick it out. I think we just, I think it just kind of happened. So how do you stick it out?
Honestly, yeah. Especially getting to the point of the separation and everything, we were not choosing each other. We were not trying to stick anything out. If anything, we were trying to figure out how to move forward separately.
I don't agree with that.
Ooh, I was.
Yeah, and again, this is what happens. This is the danger of being in a situation or a relationship, and you are not on the same page. And she would say that to me a lot back in that time period. It's like, oh, we're not on the same page, and in my mind, I'm like, we're not even the same book, because I felt so misunderstood, and just so. I would say that it's another thing I would say to you all the time. Like you don't understand. I just want to be understood. I just want to be understood. I just want to be understood.
You would.
And I feel as though, okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't agree with that statement. For me, I was trying to figure out how to be understood. And what the frustrating thing for me was, I didn't think you wanted to understand me. Now, looking back and self-reflecting, I could, with complete honesty and vulnerability, say I wasn't going about being understood the correct way. I believe that comes from the things I've seen in my own past, in my past relationships, not knowing how to navigate the feminine psyche, the examples that I had from my mother and the examples that I didn't have in life in general. So my level of communication was, well, I get me. I'm trying to tell you, what I feel. Why don't you just accept it? And I'd like to know during that time period, when I was, I guess, trying to get you to accept it, what did that look like to you? Because I wasn't trying to figure out how to live separately. I was trying to figure out how to be understood, I guess. And to the point where I got to a breaking point where I was like, well, forget it. Like that happened almost instantaneously for me.
So for me, how it translated was, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And I chose to leave it.
I know a lot of people like that. A lot of guys that say that. Yeah.
So this point that we're talking about is me post-college. So after all this, I went back to school. I went to undergrad and I went to law school. One thing I learned about college, because I was a non-traditional student, I was much older. I was 28 years old in a class with 18-year-olds when I first started. And going through the process, I learned a lot about myself. And I didn't expect that. At my age, I'm thinking, okay, I'm here to do the work, get the degree, move on with my life. I'm thinking that learning about yourself stuff, that's for 18-year-olds. That's for, that's not for me. No. And I learned so much about myself. And in turn of learning about myself, I learned about what I want and what I didn't want. So in turn, when I'm saying, hey, this is what Delania needs in this season. This is where I'm going. This is what I need now. And instead, I'm getting someone that's kind of like, well, this is what I want and this is what I need. And forget that. Like, how does that align with what I'm talking about? And it just didn't seem like it was working. My love for him never wavered. I never stopped loving him. I never even stopped wanting my family. But it felt very unhealthy. I didn't feel like I was going to be able to reach my potential as a woman in that situation. So it was just like, it's just best for us not to be in this situation. So I would propose the idea of separation, divorce, things like that, and that would anger him.
Mm-hmm.
And now knowing, it goes back to the abandonment issues that he
Mm-hmm.
was going through. It felt like I was leaving him. When the whole time I'm thinking I'm doing what's best for him, I'm setting him free. And he took it as abandonment. So even more resentments building,
Mm-hmm.
more resentments building, and we're not resolving anything, but more things are being piled on top. Um, I know when we spoke on the video, which a lot of people didn't even know we were separated during that time because we got along great as friends. We got along great as friends. We co-parented flawlessly. That's why a lot of people that were even around us had no idea that relationally it was over. It was done. Done. And I really I was tired of trying to get through to someone that wasn't even attempting to hear me. So it was like, okay, you don't want to hear me? Fine. I'll stop speaking. I'll stop speaking. Time had passed and some things happened with the WWE. I'll let him unpack that in an episode when he's ready to do that. And then he shifted again. And he started to, so the obsession went from WWE to other things. So it was still, so it wasn't even like, okay, the WWE season's over. Now I want my wife. No, he picked up other things. And I'm like, so it's never going to be my turn. I can't do this. And after watching my mother be second fiddle my whole life, I'm like, that won't be me. And it's crazy that watching it happen, I didn't know that it was manifesting that way to me. I just knew subconsciously, I don't want that. Whatever that is with her, I don't want it. So anything that looked remotely close to it, anything that seemed familiar or whatever, I ran. I was like, nope, because I know how this story ends. I've seen how this story ends. That was a really rough time. And it's funny that when we started coming to the end of the separation, when I think we were both starting to realize, like, okay, we're not getting rid of each other. Like, this is meant to be. But what does a healthy version of this look like? So we weren't back together yet, but we were starting to kind of realize this is where we needed to be. One thing I realized was there were spurts in our relationship where we were both trying, but we were never trying at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We were never trying at the same time. So there'll be times where he was trying and doing all the right things, but I was just so over it. I was just rejecting everything. And then time would pass, and then I'm like, okay, I think I want to give my marriage a try. And I'm trying, and he's over it. So he's rejecting me. So it was just, the timing was off. It was just chaos. Again, I don't know how we've ended up here. I don't know how we've ended up here because we had every reason for this not to work out. Every reason. We did all the damage to each other. We said all the things. We turned our backs on each other. We didn't have the right conversations. We said all the hurtful things. So to get to this point in a space of true forgiveness and a true newness, it's really beautiful, and it's more beautiful than I could have ever imagined that it could have been.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I will hate to think that in order for people to I don't believe that in order for people to get to that, they have to go through the things that we went through. You know, God forbid my daughter or my sons go through the things we went through in order to reach a happy place in their marriage. Which is why now we try to teach them self-awareness, even at 5 and 7 years old for the two youngest. Teaching them how to handle and manage their emotions, because I think what a lot of, I guess I can speak, for the fellas, a lot of guys go through is, well, let me take it back to me. I know my mother loves me, and I know this didn't come from a negative place, but man, I used to get called a punk a lot. Like you start crying, you start talking about your feelings, man up, don't be no little punk now, So A lot of us go through that. A lot of us get placed in these positions where we get labeled as weak or sissies or punks or whatever words you want to use when we start feeling. That's one of the biggest things, and this is something that I've come into like recently over the past several years. Even now with KJ, now I'm gonna do all that crying, but it's okay to feel. He'll cry about, it's time for bed. You gotta turn the TV off. We're not doing that. But if something happens that hurts your feelings, Daddy, I want to play fire trucks with you, and you went down and took a nap. That hurt my feelings. Okay, so we're going to address it and unpack that because he needs to know how to handle his feelings and how to articulate them correctly. I did not have that, So, and I think a lot of men don't have that, and they have the absence of what I call a blueprint. And without that blueprint, you're going to grow up. You're going to get into situations like what you and I were in and not know how to handle them. So here we are trying to figure them out in the midst of, and now we're just yelling. Now we're not communicating. Now we're just walking away. Now we're just leaving. And while there's a such thing as healthy withdrawal, separation in space isn't always a healthy thing. Without the correct context and framework surrounding it, we're going to come back to this in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I feel like as men, in order to get to the healthy place of having healthy conversation with women, we have to stop looking at vulnerability as a weakness. We have to stop looking at vulnerability as you're a punk or you're a sissy or you're weak or whatever the case may be. If you find a woman that you have decided, okay, I am going to marry her, I'm going to make her my wife, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her, I'm going to build with her. In what world does it make sense to you to not be vulnerable with this person? I know some dudes who are more vulnerable with their homeboys than they are with their women. And it does not make sense to me now. Back when I was 19, 20, okay, I could kind of get that because you don't want to, as a man, you don't want to like run a female off because you're too sensitive. You're supposed to be, you ain't supposed to be crying. You're supposed to be the man. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. It's toxic masculinity that is still taught and is still a thing in our society. It's important to understand the power, the strength of being vulnerable as a man. It's not weakness. It actually takes strength to be able to like, hey, I'm weak here. It takes strength to be like, I need to grow there. It takes strength to be like, I need you in this season, in this way. That takes a lot for you to be able to come to somebody that you trust, for me to bring that to you and set that in front of you and be like, Lenny, I need this. I'm lacking here. Whatever the case may be, I feel this. We have adopted the I feel statements. In our relationship, we when we come to each other and we say, hey, full transparency, okay, now we know that's our trigger word to know, okay, I need to put my phone down or give me or her full attention because this is going to be a moment of vulnerability and a moment where I need you to pay attention to this because I may need something from you emotionally. And we ain't had that some years ago.
No.
But as a man, if I'm talking to, one of my friends or whatever, and he's telling me, well, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to tell her this. I'm not going to tell her that. Why? Oh, because I'm the man. These are conversations I'm having with my friend. What the hell does that mean?
Let me ask you this. Is a sign that a man is not willing to do that with a woman a sign that maybe he does not view her as the one?
That's a great question. I think yes and no. I think that so it's either a sign that she isn't the one, or it's a sign that he doesn't know how. So, okay, so how do we differentiate between the two? I think that at a certain point in life, a man will get to the point where he knows what he wants. I think a man can look at a woman in a situation and know, I'm going to marry her. She's going to be my wife. And I think we're real good at compartmentalizing who's wife material and who's not. And I feel like as a woman, you guys have this sixth sense, this intuition, and when somebody's unable to articulate feelings versus if it's you. And I think those signs are there. I think a lot of people choose to ignore those signs, but I think those signs are there, and I think they're pretty apparent in most cases. But a lot of men, I feel like, just don't know how. They just don't know how. But flip side of that same coin, regardless of how you grew up, or regardless of what blueprint you had or the lack of your blueprint, eventually, and we've had this conversation before, eventually you got to let go of your traumas as a crutch. You can't always be like, well, my daddy wasn't around, and use that as an excuse to not know how to love the woman in your life. You can't always be like, well, when I was growing up, I didn't have. Okay, but now you know there's a lack and a need here, so create it. I feel like once you reach a certain point, if you know there's a lack, or you know there's something that you need to do within your relationship, okay, well, figure out how to Google it. You Google anything else, figure it out. Find a coach, find a pastor, find a therapist. Start working on yourself from within, and start working on obtaining the tools you need, because nobody's born with all the tools. Regardless, if you go into a career, you're not just because you're good at talking doesn't make you a good lawyer. You had to go to law school. You had to get the tools in order to be successful in this career field. And you chose to go out and do that. You didn't just wake up one day, I'm a lawyer. That's not how it works. You don't wake up one day and I'm a great husband. That's not how it works. You have to go out and obtain the tools.
You have to be intentional.
Intentional about it. So at what point do you stop saying, well, I didn't have it growing up, and you start saying, I'm going to go and get it? So that's a loaded question.
Yeah. And I guess part of that is even understanding the necessity of it. Mm-hmm. If you don't even understand why it's necessary for you to go and get it, you're not going to have, I guess, the urgency.
Right.
To do that.
I think for us, it's real easy for us to miss the signs too. I feel like, and this is, probably going to catch me some heat online, but I'm going to say it. This whole thought process, this whole notion that we as men are just supposed to know, has got to die. I feel like there's some things where that's okay. Okay, I know that my wife likes crab legs. Dude. I despise them. They look like spiders. They smell weird. I don't like it. I know you like crab legs. I know when you have a long day or you have a stressful week, you might want to sit down with a plate of crab legs and a baked potato and a glass of wine. Okay, cool. That does not mean I'm going to know what you're feeling and thinking inside your mind on any given day. Because one day you might like cheese and crackers. The next day you may not want cheese and crackers for whatever reason that you were triggered by throughout the day. Cheese and crackers may just turn you off in that moment. I don't know that. I think it's very important for women to let go of this. Oh, he's just supposed to know. No, that's the most unrealistic thing in the world. If you're feeling something, if I did something or said something to trigger you, tell me. I can't address anything if I don't know something's wrong. How am I supposed to do that? I'm supposed to read minds? How am I supposed to do that?
I will say on the end of that is if she brings it up, you better listen.
Fair.
You better listen.
Fair, but you got to bring it up.
And act accordingly. So, the reason why I say that is so most women are not just going to, out the gate, women are emotional creatures, but we're not going to give you everything off rip, right? So we're going to start off with little things, which could be
playing games, right?
Crab leg, or cheese and crackers, or little things. And if you fumble those little things,
what do you mean? What do you mean fumble? Because y'all got a different definition of the word fumble.
Let's talk about a fumble. I could give a personal example of a fumble.
Okay.
Just like he says, I love crab legs. There's some other, particular foods that I enjoy more than others. Mother's Day, right?
Oh, that's not a good example.
No,
you can tell the story, but it's not a good example.
No, it is.
I can tell you why it's not a good example. But go ahead. I want you to tell the story first.
So
Mother's Day of what year? You don't say Mother's Day like it was last year.
It wasn't last year. It was
22.
So this is 2025. So I would say 2022, 2021.
22.
It was 22?
Mm-hmm.
Of crab legs, right? We established that.
Mm-hmm.
This man gonna say, we gonna grill today. I don't even like barbecue. So now, I will say this. Remember we talked about the struggle bus. Me and him been on the survival struggle bus. And one of our ways of surviving, we would put our money together. We would go to the store and buy, ribs, chicken, things like that. And we would grill because that could feed our family for the week. That could feed our family for the week, and it was a very, and then it was also a way of bonding. We'll be out there grilling. The kids would be out in the yard playing, with the ball, and we will play music. It became like one of our family little bonding things. It's amazing how in struggle you'll come together, and that was one way we used to do it. So 2022, we out of the struggle, right? We up.
No, hold on now.
You know,
we went out the struggle.
John Legend, get lifted.
We went out the struggle.
Live it up, live it up, live it up.
We were on our way out of the struggle. Are you talking financially, or are you talking about?
Yeah, yes, financially. So the reason why we used to do that at that point, that was not our circumstance anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So Mother's Day comes around 2022. This man talking about we're gonna grill. I never really liked barbecue. I did it because it was necessary. And he knew that. There was never a time where we're going out to eat and I'm like, let's go get some barbecue. Never. Ever. Not one time. So why on my day, which is supposed to be my day, where you're supposed to show love and appreciation to me and love on me and show me, easy. Crab legs, not hard. Barbecue. So to me, that was a big fumble because it's like, you're not even listening. Now, mind you, this is during a time period where all the compounding is happening. All the compounding, this is in the midst of all that. So I'm already on 10, right? So this just lit the match. This lit the match here. I was livid. I was very upset because I'm like, man, you really had an opportunity. So I'm not asking you to read my mind. I'm just asking you to pay attention. I'm just asking you to be aware. I'm just asking you to give a damn. And I felt like if he was intentional and really thinking about me the way I needed him to be thinking about me, and this all goes back to feeling like the mistress. I always felt like an afterthought. I always felt like I got what was left of him. So this felt like that all over again. Mm-hmm. This is easiest for him. This is just what this is not, Mother's Day is not even about me. I can't even have Mother's Day.
That's funny. It's funny. It's not funny. It's funny. It's funny to me.
It was not funny on that
because let me explain why it's funny. It's funny because it's actually, as much as I used to hate the story, I love this story because it's a testament to how disconnected we truly were. I hate barbecue. I'm probably one of the few guys on earth that really don't like grilling. I'll eat it. I don't want to do it. It's just not my thing, man. I don't want to pull a grill out. We got a grill. I don't want to pull it out. I don't want to clean it. I just don't want to. Like, I got friends that are like, oh yeah, I'm breaking out the smoker this weekend. Great. Have at it. That's just not me. I actually hate grilling. In that moment though, we were so disconnected. We were so, like I said, not even in the same book. And this is not in
the same library.
This isn't an excuse, but my career is, at the time, I hadn't made rank yet, so I was just a firefighter.
Correct.
EMT.
Right.
So I was riding a rescue like every shift. We worked 24-hour shifts, so it's 24 hours on and then 48 hours off. Mother's Day happened to fall on, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mother's Day happened to fall on the day that I was getting off work that morning. Yes, because I came home and we got into this. And yeah, I can completely agree that there was no intentionality there. I wasn't being intentional in that season of life. I was just coming out of I'm gonna call it a bad relationship with a therapist. I decided to go back to therapy, but I had a bad experience with a therapy, and I think that's an episode we should do all of its own, like the therapist vibe check. The therapist vibe check. Like, at this point, you found a great one. I was so frustrated because I was trying to work on me in a season where I was so angry with just a lot of different things, including myself. And I had a therapist that didn't pass the vibe check, right? And I, wasn't being intentional about our relationship. I came home, I was agitated already. I was tired. I'd been up all night. And in my mind, from my perspective, me saying let's barbecue was me doing something I thought you wanted to do. It was me thinking I was sacrificing some stuff I didn't want to do, or some time that I didn't want to give, in order to do something that made you happy. Because going back to those days where we did barbecue, like you said, it was fun. It was a bonding experience. It was, I didn't like necessarily doing it, but I like what I was doing with you. So it made me think that in that moment, oh, this would be something that she would enjoy. So when she reacted the way that she reacted, it took me completely by surprise. And so, which led to yet another argument, which led to me realizing, okay, well, this is rooted in something else. And even in that moment, in that day, I wasn't aware that this was rooted in not feeling chosen, or not feeling like I was intentional about you, or not feeling like you were the first pick or the priority. I didn't know that. I'm like, the hell are you upset about? So again, this is a perfect testament to where we were in that season, because, and it's another thing that I feel like drove us apart, because I'm like, why are you not understanding my efforts? This is an effort. Like, what's the problem? I'm like, I'm gonna pay for it. Like, I don't understand. And you're feeling neglected and not a priority, because of other things that are rooted within you. And I said it's a bad story because it's not recent, but
well, we don't have any recent stories of that. So we don't have any recent stories. That was one of the last ones where I was just over it at that point, because I'm like,
crab leg.
If nothing else, you get Mother's Day right. And here's another reason why I took so much offense to it, because marriage wise, we were doing terribly at this point. When I say terribly, but I'm the mother of your children. So regardless of what, you're going to show up for me as the mother of your children. This is what I'm feeling. So while we're at odds, you going to go all out for me today. And for him to drop the ball as the mother of his children, I took a special, offense to that. I was operating out of offense. I was really, really offended. And then I'm like, it's so easy. How did you manage to screw this up? I'm like, you must have wanted to screw this up. That's the only way you could have screwed this up. You could have got a crab boil. You could have bought, a couple pounds.
I can be honest and say, I know, but the crab legs never crossed my mind. Ever.
And that just, again, shows how disconnected we were. We were really, 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 really disconnected. And the crazy thing is, we so deeply wanted to be connected to each other.
It was weird. It's a very weird place to be in.
It was.
And that's where so much of the frustration was. And I think where we got to the point where we was just like, okay, because I don't think we knew how to get back. There's another thing too that I learned.
Happened too.
It's not a get back. It's get to. Because what we learned in this season was that we never actually were in a healthy place.
I remember that. I was talking to my therapist during that season, and I was like, I just want to get back to 2013. That's why I would always tell her, I want to get back to 2013, thinking those were the best years, not knowing we just weren't dealing with things. Mm-hmm. It's not that things were okay. It's just that we just avoided conflict. Mm-hmm.
We were operating in this season of avoidance.
And then when it got to a point where we couldn't avoid it anymore, then things just started spilling out. Now, in this season that we're in, I'm like, this is far better than I could have ever imagined it could have been. Mm-hmm. So much better.
That's why I like to tell like my friends, man. Like I have one friend in particular who is trying to break that mold of what he grew up seeing, what he grew up experiencing. Proposed finally. Like just getting ready to really take that next step and try to be the guy that I know he wants to be. But he's got to get over that fear of being vulnerable. I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody who's young in a relationship with somebody who they want to take the distance. You got to let go of that ego, that image that you have of yourself in your mind, that, you have to appear and be this person or this entity. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a woman wants to have the true and authentic version of you. Like, you don't want to see necessarily their representative all the time. And in order to break that cycle, you have to be vulnerable. What's the worst that's going to happen by her knowing that you wet the bed? She was 14, 15 years old. And now, now that you, it was, I'm not saying it was me. I'm just saying.
I love you anyway. I love you anyway.
I'm just trying to.
And all of America does as well.
Or if I'm going to use a personal example, thank you very much. What's the worst that can happen by the person that you say you love and you're investing in, knowing that you have abandonment issues because your mom used to up and leave you? What is the worst that can happen? To me, the only thing that can happen is growth from it. You want to be understood, you have to be vulnerable. If you want her to understand why you're moving this way and that way, you have to explain where you came from and why.
one of the most frustrating parts about everything that we've gone through, well, during that season, was I knew from the beginning about your abandonment issues. When you didn't say, "Hey, I have abandonment issues," but when you would talk to me about what your childhood looked like and your upbringing, I saw that, right? So I felt this need to want to nurture you and love you and show you that I wanted wouldn't. So that's why when you continuously push me away, I'm like, bro, like, what is this? I'm like, let me love you, man. Like what? Like I can only fight through this so much because I can't love you more than I love me. And I felt like I was getting to a point where I was loving you more than loving me by what I was allowing and what I was tolerating with how you were treating me and how you were making me feel. So honestly, when I asked for the separation and asked for the divorce, it I felt like you had put me in a position where I had to choose me. Where I had to choose me. Where you were literally put in a position where I had to choose between you and me. And I had to choose me because I saw my mom choose men. And I saw where that got her. I never saw that get her somewhere productive. I never saw her win because of that. So I was just like, well, I'm not gonna continue making. I'm not gonna make the same mistake she did. Um, I really felt like you put me in a position where I had no choice. It's not a choice I wanted to make. It was a choice I felt like I had to make, which was very disappointing and frustrating to me because I'm like, I don't want this, but I have to. Also, I saw how my upbringing with my mother, how it affected me. And I was like, that will not happen to my children. So I'm also cognizant of the example I'm setting for them, especially Madison as a young woman, the example I'm setting for her as to what she will allow and what her normal is. And then as far as my boys, I'd never want them to think that it was okay or that a woman tolerating that's love. No, no, you know. So I'm thinking of all of that. So I'm like, as much as I love you and as much as I want to be your wife and as much as I want this marriage to work, I have a bigger responsibility to myself and to my children to not stay in something that's unhealthy.
I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It all circles back into a self awareness thing. Um, in order to be in a healthy place in life in general, you have to be able to soul search and dive deep and be self aware of the things that are triggering to you, things that cause you
Yeah,
to operate out of a place of trauma. Because a lot of people are operating from trauma and don't even realize it. So if you are
I was.
actively working um, to operate in life from a healthy place, I think it forces you to address those areas of trauma that you're operating out of in a subconscious effort to protect yourself. You know, you hear a lot of
Yeah.
people, "Oh, I'm trying to protect myself. I'm in self-preservation mode. I'm in survival mode." Like that's not really how you're supposed to be. It's not how we're intended to live life, out of survival mode.
That's why I
You know,
wanted cats.
we're intended to live life thriving. You know, we have a blueprint on how to live life, and in no way, shape, or form does any scripture ever say you should be in survival mode. You know, so but we've adopted that saying, and it's almost cute now for everybody to go, "Oh, I'm a survivor." You know, there's a song out that idolizes a female being a survivalist, and that's just not where any of us should be operating from, especially in a relationship. Because I feel like if you're in a relationship and you say, "Well, I'm a survivor," and this whole, you know, I'm strong, independent, that's great. But if you choose to be in a relationship, you choose to be married, that's a wall that needs to be broken down, and you need to come together and join together in order to thrive together.
But we have to acknowledge where that comes from, though. So a lot of women in this day and age that scream that, I'm a survivor, etc. Why is that? We got to think about what we saw our parents and especially our grandmothers go through. So there were times where our grandmothers couldn't have a bank account, could not own a home, was very limited as far as what jobs she could have, things like couldn't vote. Base things that we look at as basic now, um, were luxuries then were they depended on men for that. And what did the men do in turn? They had families all up and down the street. They would cheat, they would abuse, they would mistreat, because where's she going? Nowhere. What other options did she have? She couldn't go back home to her parents. And then if she tried to divorce him, would another man want her, especially when she had children? It was so it's now women wear it as a badge of honor that we don't have to tolerate those things anymore because our grandmothers had to tolerate it. And while they never explicitly said that, um, we saw it. We saw it. You know, when they would start dating a boy on the block, they want to meet him right away to make sure it's not one of their siblings and things like that. Like, it was terrible. Like, they didn't even go to the next county or next city over. They'll be on the same block creating families. Just bold with it. You know, look at the movie Fences. That wasn't common. Go and make families and then bring the babies home. That's crazy. You know, so it's like, while men these days are kind of looking at our reaction, but not understanding the catalyst behind why we are the way that we are. So if we're seeing similar, I guess, qualities, because our grandfathers was talking a little spicy and, you know, things like that. So when we see similar qualities, we like, no, I'm not her. What we say, we're not our ancestors? No, they tolerated things we would not. You know, so it's like, I understand your thought process behind, well, we don't want y'all to be that way. But you got to think about why we are in that realm to begin with, and what actions you may be doing to cause a woman to feel that those actions are appropriate or necessary.
Everything you just described was a trauma response.
Wow.
I'm sitting here listening, and I'm trying to be. I'm like, this is going to turn at some point. You just that was a literal trauma response. Trauma response. And if I were to sit here and say that, well, you want me to act a certain way, but you got to understand where I came from as a man. My dad did this, that, and the other. That's not something that you would accept. And while I understand that, you know, women had to definitely endure some hardships and overcome a lot, not just as women, but some of us as black women overcome a lot in order just to be able to thrive, right?
To exist.
That's not this situation here. And if there are things that are happening in your relationship that make you feel like you're going down that road, now it's on you to sit down, say, hey, full transparency. You did this, said this, acted this way, reacted this way, and it triggered me. I'd like to unpack that. I feel like it doesn't have to be full transparency. It could be anything. I think we should eliminate, hey, we need to talk, because that causes immediate anxiety with people. But find your own phrase to say to your spouse, your partner, that indicates I need a safe space to communicate and have those conversations. Because I might be doing something that I have no idea. There was times I didn't realize going to the gym was triggering you. I'm just doing my thing. But in order for me to move in a way that is intentional, I have to know about the things that are triggering to you. I feel like a lot, I'm not saying this is you, but there are a lot of things where people are in relationships where their wife or girlfriend will just get attitude for no reason, and they can't understand why. Well, she always got attitude. And then from her perspective, it looks like you don't care, you're not being intentional. But you have to understand that, again, going back to what I said earlier, we can't read minds. I may do something tonight that triggers you. I may not know that I triggered you. And flip side of that same coin, it's my responsibility to say, hey, I ain't like how, you pushed my olives to the side on that charcuterie board. That triggered me.
Yep, they're nasty.
But that's my responsibility. My feelings are my responsibility. If I'm giving you the key to my heart, it's your responsibility to protect it. But I can't give you that without an instruction manual. So if you are triggered by something, if I'm doing something, it's your responsibility to give it to me. It's my responsibility not to fumble it. That's when you can start holding people accountable for fumbling when they know. When they know.
Yeah.
Oh. You.
I agree.
I'm tripping off the barbecue story, but whatever, you know.
Yeah, because I was
I'm
man,
so tired of that one.
and I will never forget it. Like, I think you started. You was like, you know, what do you want to do today? No. I think I asked you, do you have anything planned today?
You know what I had planned today?
You have the audacity to talk about, yeah, we gonna grill, man.
And that part was on me. That part was on me.
Was coming out of my ears, y'all.
Because I didn't plan nothing. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't plan anything.
See,
I didn't plan anything. I don't even know that I knew that day was Mother's Day. I can't remember until I walked in the house that morning and you started asking me questions. I'm just like, I don't even know that I knew. I was in such a fog during this time period of my life, man. I couldn't even I couldn't honestly tell you if I knew that it was Mother's Day.
Honestly, and I think that's one of the hardest things about marriage. You married every day, y'all.
You're married every day.
You are married every day, no matter what individual battles you're fighting out in the streets, in your career, kids. It doesn't matter. You are still married, and you have to show up for your marriage every day. And honestly, that is difficult. That is difficult.
It's difficult, I think, to shift that mindset, because for me, there was a point in time when you're talking about my career as a fireman. This is my career, and I need everybody to adapt around this, because this is my career. This is how we pay for things. This is how health insurance, like this is what it is. It took a while for me, and it wasn't easy to shift my thought process to, this is my family, this is my life, and everything else needs to adapt around that. And that's a hard shift to make if you're living in, this is my career, this is my creative space, this is what I do. Everything else needs to adapt around that. That's hard.
And honestly, living in this season now with you, where I do feel like a priority and I do feel chosen, like it's so different. It is so different. And this is what I've been looking for the whole time. I just didn't know how to articulate it. And honestly, if I'm honest, even when I became aware of that, I didn't want to articulate it because I didn't want it like that. I didn't want to say, hey, choose me. And he's like, all right. I didn't want that. I didn't want that. I wanted him to want to choose me. And it's like, oh, you choosing me? That's what I wanted. I didn't want it grudgingly and under compulsion. I didn't want it.
It's still a choice.
Out of obligation. Yeah,
it's not a choice. It's not an ultimatum.
No, it's not the same. For instance, the equivalent would be if a woman proposes to a man and he says yes and they get married. Did you propose and did you ultimately end up where you wanted to? Yeah, but it's different when that man gets down on his knee and asks you to be his wife. It's different. You might end up at the same place, but the route matters. The route matters. So I wanted you to choose me because you wanted to choose me, not because I asked to be chosen.
Sure, but we used to have to know what that looks like. In order to be intentional, you have to know what intentionality looks like to the person that you're being intentional about. And I think that comes from communication. Does that make sense?
No.
That doesn't make sense?
It has nothing to do with what I just said.
It has everything to do with what you just said. Because you're saying, well, I don't want it grudgingly and under compulsion. But sometimes, especially in I will say not necessarily as much now, but in the season that we were in, it would have been helpful to know what love looked like to you.
That puts me in the same conundrum because I'm having to explain to you what I want. So if I got it, it was going to be on some, am I receiving it because I asked for it, or am I receiving it because he wanted to give it to me?
So if
that
you ask
matters
for
to me. That mattered to me.
I still choose to do it. How is that grudgingly or compulsion?
I didn't want it like that. I wanted you to do it because you wanted it to do it.
Okay.
Not because I asked for it.
So realistically, what does that look like?
It looks like what I get now. Everything
Explain
I receive.
that for somebody who hasn't seen it.
So, I mean, I can't explain it from your perspective because I don't know what's going on in your mind. I just know what I'm receiving. Now I know he's intentional about me. I feel it every day. I feel it every day, every minute of every day. Even when I'm getting on his last nerve, nerves he didn't even know he had yet. I still feel and see the intentionality. And I know it's because of this new season and who he wants to be to me. Not because I asked for it or he feels like he's obligated to do so. It feels that women know.
It's
Women
come from
know.
hours and hours and hours of conversation and learning who you are.
Right. It doesn't. I don't care where it comes from. I'm just telling you that's what I wanted. So it's like, wow. So
I'm saying, what does it look like? Paint the picture.
you got to tell me what it looks like because it's coming from you. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just choosing to receive it. I'm the receiver. I'm the receiver in this. So, for instance, Mother's Day 2022. If he would have been like, well, what do you want for Mother's Day today? And I would have been like, crab legs. While I might have enjoyed the crab legs, it would have meant more for him to be like, babe, I got you some crab legs. And I'm like, give me some crab legs. That would have meant so much more knowing that that's something he wanted to do for me, not that he's just fulfilling a desire. Do y'all want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Sex. It means more. It means more to a man when a woman initiates. Even if the end goal is the same. He's getting what he wants. But how it started, it makes a difference. If a woman initiates, like, fellas, talk to me if this is accurate or not. If a woman initiates it, it means more than if a man initiates it and she allows it.
How do you know what I like?
What?
How do you know? It's a simple question.
In what context?
In the context of sex. We're going to talk about it. How do you know what I like?
I just do.
You don't just do. Because if you start doing some stuff I don't like, it's going to be a problem.
What have I?
So,
no, because
so
I know.
Because you know, or because of the countless hours of conversation around the topic?
It's trial and error.
It's not no damn trial.
What?
Ain't no trial and error over here. It's not no trial and error.
Trial and error. Yeah, I try something. You're like, oh, okay, you like that, or not so much of a. Yeah, like okay, he's lukewarm on that. Cool.
Okay,
you know.
It's from trial and error and conversation surrounding the topic.
I guess.
One thing you can't do is read my mind. But talking about being intentional, we got to get into when that shift happened, when I started being intentional about you and you started being intentional about me. We have to make that shift into that topic because we tell the story of the concert, but the concert story don't hit as hard if you don't know everything that we've already been talking about.
Okay.
So let's get into that.
So remember
next
I
week
told you
on the Conversation is King because we got on the next part we're gonna get into that because we're over time. You know, because I'm the one keeping track of all
this. Is what
all
we
she
do.
does.
This
all
is
she
what
does
we
is
do.
show up.
We literally
all she does is show up.
Have these conversations, and we would sit and talk for hours, just like this, and we would talk and talk and talk and ask each other questions and dig deeper. This is what we do, and we're just inviting you guys along.
Absolutely, and I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
So tune in with us next week. Lock in, and we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna argue just a little bit more. She be here lying on me. I don't appreciate it.
Barbecue. Try me. Barbecue.